Hi everyone. We are waiting for the audience to join in. So we are back again with yet another live session, but this time on a different platform. Before this, we were, having this session on Instagram only, but this time we're on Facebook. So I'm waiting for the author to join in. Once he joins in, we're going to begin with the session. He's here. Hi, sir. How are you? Am I audible to you?
Fine. Yes, you are audible. Am I audible to you?
Yeah, you are audible, but I mean, the background noise is quite audible too. So I hope the session will be, will go fine. So your video is freezed. So could you do something about it? So your internet connection is quite low. So hi everyone. As I was saying that today we will be talking to Aftab Yusuf Sheikh. He is a poet, novelist, children's author, teacher, and translator based in Thane. He started writing at the age of 8 and has ever since published a large number of his works in anthologies and journals. We are waiting for him to join in. And today we will be talking about his new book, Mominpura and Other Poems. It is a great book. It has, a lot of poetries about human relationships. Yes, sir. I'm gonna add you again. Yes. So now
Hello.
am I audible to you, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I'm very sorry about this all
That's okay,
technical
sir.
stuff.
That's okay. But your voice is not quite audible. So could you do something about it?
Still, I'm not audible.
Yeah. Now it's perfectly fine. So as I was, giving your introduction to our audience. So
Okay.
today we will be talking about your new book, Mominpura and Other Poems. So, sir, share something about your
Yeah.
book and what it's all about.
Well, this is the second book that I have done.
The first one was Tehzeeb Talkies. So this is Mominpura, and this is actually Mominpura is a small locality in the south of Mumbai. So I have some childhood memories of that place. Actually, what I was impressed about was there is a facade, there is a layer on cities that they are very bright cities and very, people want to come to the cities and all that. But behind that, there is uh, there is a very sad phase of cities. Many people who come to Mumbai and never go back, they stay here, but they have very you know when you look into their lives, it is very sad. So I'm very much impressed by this idea of moving for a better life, and it's kind of a gamble. Nobody knows what will happen in the new place. So this is all about that. In Mominpura, I was particularly mentioning the weavers whom I have seen. They kept on weaving, and while they are weaving clothes, they are in a way trying to weave their future or their lives. So that impressed me. And then I'm very much in love with cities, especially Delhi and Mumbai. Delhi, I don't know why, because I have no special connection with Delhi, and Mumbai because I was born in Mumbai, the old one, the old Bombay one, not the present Mumbai. It's not quite
Okay.
likable right now. So, so I like that Bombay and the idea of Bombay, how a place nobody cared about, then slowly people started coming in, and other people, I mean the Westerners, the Europeans realized the importance of the place as an important port, and then they started developing the city, and that is how everything happened. And this place slowly became an international city, and everybody from all over the world was coming to this place. So that idea of Mumbai is very interesting and very much appealing to me. So this book contains most of the poems that are related to a city or city life or human beings who are uh, trying to change their lives in any way. So the
It
poems
is
in this book are
basically
like that.
about cities and human relationships also, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And as I was, I mean, when I got to know that I will be taking your interview, I got this book, and when I was reading some of the poems, I mean, the title that it has, it is am I audible, sir? Yeah, the connection is quite
Yeah, something from your
poor,
side
sir.
was,
Yeah, I mean,
it
I
happens
checked it once.
these
It
times, it happens.
anyway. So, so as I was saying, the titles that now, is it better? Now, is the connection better, sir? I mean, I have no
The
idea what is
connection is good
happening
from
right
my
now.
side right now, but it is happening twice. It is happening from your side now.
And when I'm
It
seeing
suddenly
it, it
went off.
is,
The video went off.
yeah, yeah. So as I was saying, sir, the titles, I mean, they are giving me different meanings altogether. For example, Suicide Sunday, or like Venom, Bar Tragedy. So could you say something about it? That, I mean, how do you name a particular poem?
Actually, there is no particular format for that, any pattern for that. What happens is sometimes a phrase sticks in their mind, and then the phrase takes the shape of a poem, a phrase or the title, as you are saying. And sometimes what happens is the poem is there, and there is no name for it, and then one has to think for a name. So it's not in a particular manner that I am telling you. Mostly what happens is you have an idea. That idea is the title of the poem, which expands into the poem. It's like that.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Suicide Sunday. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. And when I was watching one of your interviews, you've told that, I mean, you are a bilingual writer. Okay, so you write in English also, in Urdu and in Hindi also. So, I mean, in one of your statements, you've told that when I'm, saying anything in Urdu or Hindi for that matter, I don't have to write it. I don't have to think about it. I just say these things and it is a poem, right? But when it comes to English, you think about a particular situation on how to, create a poem out of it. So, I mean, are there any challenges that you face regarding this?
Mm. As I said as you mentioned in the interview also, that what we have a language. Everybody has a language which is, the language of their dreams or the language of their thought. So I am very much confused because being from my in my environment, nobody speaks in English. The house in which I grew up, nobody spoke English. So everybody spoke in the mixture of Hindi and Urdu, which is normally known as Hindustani. And in my school, I heard English from my teachers and other people as I was in a convent. So as I'm telling you, and I'm trying to think what is that language which I am talking about, I don't really know what that language is. I don't understand because in my dreams also there is a mixture of language. I don't understand whether it is English or it's mostly visuals, and maybe I am translating them into my own language of convenience. It's like that. Of course, in Hindi and Urdu, it is very easy. I extempore, I can try to write a poem or things like that. You just have to narrate a thought in a poetic way. Uh, and in English, yes, I have to work on it a little bit, but it is mostly about the language, not the thought. The thought is there. So that's how it is.
Am I audible to you, sir? Okay, okay. Fine, sir. So, do you think that the usage of social media for poetry is contributing in its welfare, or is it the other way around?
It's mostly the other way around. Because what I normally see is, see, if you check the names of poets who are actually poets who have a lot of work uh, done by them, you will find they are hardly there on social media, and even if they are there, they are not very popular kind of. And the people who are popular, they don't actually have poetry. It's similar. It's the way today's uh, film songs and the music of today. It is like that only. Today's music is words and music which are nonsensical mostly.
Absolutely, sir.
But the audience, the vast number of people who like it, they are like that. They like that language. So if
They
we
like the beat
if
and
we
the,
if I play a
the
song
rhyming words.
of the 50s, yeah, if I play a song of the 50s and 60s, people today will mostly not understand what it is being said. And those songs were popular in that time, which
Absolutely.
means that every normal person that time understood that. So the language was so high that time, and now it has come down, stooped down. So mostly these poets are not, I don't think they are poets or they write poetry, just rhyming words. And it's like that. I have to post 4 lines and I have the fourth line with me. I just have to arrange the 3 lines somehow, tim tam tom tom, and then it is done. So
Yeah,
most of the poetry is like that.
absolutely.
Maybe there are good people who are writing good things. There may be some people like that, but mostly it is like that. Social media
Yeah, even I've seen it. I
has not
mean,
helped
every
in this.
single person with, they write a few rhyming words and claim that they are a poet in their bio. So I
Course.
can completely agree with you, sir,
And
on
then there
that.
are anthologies where you can pay, the anthologies where you can pay and just get done with it. So there also they get the title of a published author. People are putting this also on their social
Yes,
media. We are
absolutely.
published authors. That also helps them. So it's not helping mostly.
Okay, so actually, so when I was scrolling through your feed on your Instagram, I saw this post with one word poetry. You've just created one word, and I mean, to be very honest, I didn't get it. So could you just share some of the the meaning behind these particular words, and what does one word poetry actually mean?
It's actually it was honestly it was a effort to to try to be a part of that social media poetry carnival about which I was, uh, what do you say? I don't have a good word for that. I have a bad word, but not a good word for that. About which I was complaining. So I was trying to experiment kind of. So two, three, around 4 or 5 poems are there. So if somebody sees them, there is one word, life. Actually, the effect of the poem is in the visual. The way I have written life, it starts in a very light shade, in a gray shade, and then it goes on darkening, and then it becomes black. And the black part is if. Then again the E starts to lighten, and it goes on lightening, and it becomes very light. So the meaning behind this, it is only one word, life. But the meaning behind this is that we are nothing, and then we come into existence, and then we go away. And the time when we are actually there, we are worried and we are busy with ifs and buts. We are confused and we are trying to understand everything. And in the meantime, our life is done with us and we have to leave. So that is what it meant. And then there was war. There were small dots,
Yes,
then a
sir.
bigger dot, and then a bigger dot, and then there was written war. And after war, this bigger dot becomes slow and smaller and smaller, which means that everything, life, family, house, cities, villages, they develop slowly. One by one, things build up. And war comes and it diminishes everything. It brings everything to zero. So that's what that war one is trying to say. And it is a visual, so you can bring out your own meaning also in that. It's not easy to understand what I am
Yeah.
saying.
So
You
yeah,
can
yeah,
also make a meaning
absolutely.
out of it.
So it must be having different meanings. And I mean, to be very honest, every reader, when a writer writes something, he expects the reader to interpret in different ways, because everything
Yes,
differently,
of course.
right? So people interpret things differently. So it is all about the interpretation also, right? But so with that, I want to ask, some poetries are quite difficult to interpret by a normal human being. For example, if I don't really, usually read poetry, but when I'm starting to read this, for example, when, if I start at any poem, it's called Life. So sometimes these lines I don't really get what does this mean. So do you think a poetry should be easy to interpret, or I mean, what's your take on that, sir?
You mentioned which poem? Life.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
You mentioned
Life.
one poem, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir. I mean, I mentioned this. It is on 69th page, sir.
yeah, I saw. 3 days left
Yeah,
now. Time
and
is
I
6
just
days, but I
took
don't
this
want.
as an example because, in on social media
Yeah,
platforms
I
also,
got that.
some poetries and some poems are quite difficult to interpret, and sometimes the writer only has one meaning to a poem, but sometimes it becomes difficult because he uses, difficult language. So do you think what this makes it quite difficult for the readers to interpret?
See, one thing that we have to understand is that we cannot always understand everything. So if there are things which we don't understand, it's not a big deal. But yes, if in poetry there you want to understand something, you like something, the tone of it, you like it, but you're not really understanding what the poet wanted to say. So in that case, we can what we can do is we can narrate it to somebody else. We can mention it to somebody else, and it may be that our filter is blocked, but that person is able to grasp the meaning. Maybe then we realize, oh, it's like that. So it is possible to understand things. It is normal that we don't understand some of the things, and even the people who write them, people who write them, they are surprised at times when somebody else gives a different interpretation of their own work. So they realized that what I wrote was very,
Yeah.
very meager value, and this person had made the poem, yeah, fun
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so valuable. So that happens also. So it depends. Sometimes a small child may point out something which is very great and very big. Anything can happen.
So did it ever happen to you also, sir?
uh, where I did, yes, it happens. It happens many times when people say that, suppose I'm mentioning a word, a poem, or somebody read it, they say, what did it mean? And then I try to act the fake poet philosopher way, and then I just keep quiet for some time. That you tell me how, and then the person says, then I can judge, and I realize that that person is saying far deeper things than I said. So then sometimes I
Yes.
honestly confess, yes, that's what you are saying is far greater than what I, and sometimes I just snatch it and say that's what I was trying to say. So it happens both ways.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for that point. Sir, I want to ask, what does all well-written poetry have in common?
I'm sorry, I didn't get your question.
What does all well-written poetry have in common, sir? Is it the language that these poetries have, or the mindset, or the rhyming?
Huh. I'm
Yes, sir.
audible? Yeah, I was
Yes,
saying
sir,
that
you're audible.
it is like that. The language is the vessel, and the thought is the real content. So if I have to deliver something to somebody, I need something to carry it in. So for that, the language is important. It sometimes happens that the thought is very good, very beautiful, but my wrong usage of language has made it uh, useless or unfathomable for the reader. So it happens
Yeah.
sometimes like that. The language is important, but you should have something to say. Sometimes what happens is you have language,
Hmm.
but you don't really have anything to say. You just want to say so that people understand that you have said. That is that ruins poetry.
Hmm.
Don't say unless you have something to say.
Absolutely, sir. And so I want to ask one thing, I want to add one thing in this, that you've said the language and, the usage of language is most important. Plus, what does all well written poetry have in common is, uh, when you want to, when if suppose I'm a writer, right? So if I want to express anything in a truest form, and when I've written that down in a poem, and when the reader reads it, and when he gets it, that the same meaning that I was supposed to express in that, and when he gets it, that is when the true, that is when I'll be knowing that what I've written is good, right? And it is well written, because what I was supposed to express in that, the reader got it. So, do you agree with this, sir?
Mm, yes, I agree with this to some extent. Uh, what the reader should understand is the essence of what my point is. It is very rare that, in the case of poetry, I'm saying, in fiction and other stuff, it is quite possible. Not just possible, it is necessary. But in poetry, if the reader has understood the essence of what I wanted to say, that is enough. Maybe that person has a different interpretation, but still it rotates around revolves around the same concept. So that is also fine. That is enough satisfaction for the poet. Because when you write a poem, you have a thought in your head, and that thought has to, there is no other way. You cannot, uh, in simple words, you cannot tell somebody to imagine that what you are saying. So you can only use poetic words for that. And if that picture somehow is built up in the reader's mind, then it is done.
Thank you, sir. And with that, I want to ask, what is your inspiration behind writing poetry? Because when I was researching about you, I got to know that you started writing at the age of 8. So that is quite commendable, sir, and unusual also, and unique also. So what happened in your life that, led you towards writing?
Actually, my father writes in Urdu. So ever since I have understood these things, I have seen my father writing and his work being published in Urdu newspapers and magazines. And as far as inspiration, uh, poetic inspiration is concerned, if you want to know any person who has inspired me, then it is my father. And if you are talking about the concepts, how ideas develop in my head, so it's only one reason, and that is human compassion. I feel very compassionate about everything. I'm a very emotional person, and I may shed tears at a drop of a hat on things which people will find not at all emotional. So the how do I say, it is the ability or the effort to see the human or the human side of things. As I told you about the cities also, I'm not interested in cities. I'm interested in the people who built that city and who came and went from the city. So it is always the people who interest me. That is why my favorite topics are religion, history. Religion and history are my favorite topics, and to some extent, psychology as well. But these three are important to me because they are connected with people. What has happened to people, how people have lived
Yeah.
their lives, millions of people. So that's what is very. So when I write a poem, I just try to catch a certain moment and the emotions behind it, and I just want to bring that picture to other people as well.
Thank you so much, sir. Um, Sometimes, so what happens is you are, I mean, you have so many professions in your profile. I mean, you are a novelist, poet, teacher, and a translator. So, how do you switch between these roles? Are there any challenges involved?
Um,
I'm really sorry, sir. I have no idea why it is happening.
yeah, it happens.
So,
So
as
as I
you were
was saying,
saying something, sir?
I was saying that I'm a teacher when I'm teaching. I'm a translator when I'm translating, but I'm a poet all the time, and that sometimes creates problem. When I say something uh, which is quite poetic, people, not you don't always get the deserving audience. So sometimes that creates problem. But it's not a confused. Yes, the novelist within me is having trouble because a novelist needs a lot of time and space and mental space as well.
Yes, sir.
And my profession is not presently allowing the novelist to flourish. So that person is very worried. Otherwise, the poet is there. The poet writes when something comes to my mind. All right, a thought does not wait for the right moment comes.
Okay, sir. So, what book are you reading right now? Are there any recommendations that you would like to share? I mean, I'm getting, really
Mm,
interested in poetry and stuff. So, are there any recommendations?
In poetry, I would suggest I like reading the poems of Rabindranath Tagore, and I recently read Tonight is Savage Right. It is a collection of poems by Kamla Das and Pritish Nandi. There is one book which has poems of both the poets. So I was reading that also. Presently, I'm not reading any poetry book. I was reading a novel, Miss Burma, by Charmaine Lane. It's about the
Oh,
historical background of Burma and all that. So presently, I'm reading that.
okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. And truly, it was a wonderful session, except the network issues that happened, and I'm really
Interruption.
sorry for that. But truly, I really enjoyed,
It's
talking to
not
you
your
and got to learn so
mistake or
much.
mine.
Yeah, but anyway, um, I'm really excited because I got to know from my teammate that you will be taking part in our poetry festival also, and I'm very excited.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
yes, I hope to. Yes,
Yes,
I
and I'm
hope to
very
take part
excited for
in that.
that.
I hope it works out good. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir, it will. And thank you so much, sir. Have a good day, sir.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Thank you for having me.